And we're live. Amazing. Thank you, Nim, for setting this one up. Ciao, Wendy.
Hello.
Oh, so um, basically, we're here on behalf of Gone West. We're always here on behalf of Gone West, but today it actually has to do with what we know best, which is life on land, and we're tree planters, so we should know something about that.
Absolutely. So before I let you jump ahead, I wanted to do a quick intro to everyone. Obviously, everyone who's here will know who Gone West is. But I just wanted to share my personal story of how Gone West and us came together. And it was almost 8 months ago when I met their founder, James, at a sustainability event in London. And he started to tell me about all the wonderful work that Gone West has been doing. And I have to be honest, when I first heard it, I was like, this is too good to be true. So I had to go and check it out. And I have to say, I was completely blown away. So I'm not going to give away too much of Gone West's story because I think it's phenomenal and you need to hear it from the horse's mouth. So I'm going to hand it over to you guys and enjoy.
Thank you, Namisha. And actually, I just wanted to kick off today by just extending a huge thank you to Namisha. I know that you guys who have been attending will have seen myself and Cameron co-hosting a lot of the sessions throughout the week. Obviously, Gone West is doing this in partnership, this event with Namisha and her organisation. Namisha has really been the driving force behind this entire event. We've been very lucky to be along for the ride and helping to support and collaborate on such a wonderful event. So Namisha, just thank you so much for your vision, your inspiration, your constant innovative ways of thinking, and all the energy that you're passing down to all of us, and hopefully that's channeling through to all of the audience today. So thank you.
You've been unstoppable. It's incredible.
She's a
tree army.
So with the thank yous out of the way, we'll kick off today. So we just really want to talk to you a little bit about Gone West. I know that a number of the different businesses that have showcased what they're doing today are collaborating in some respect with Gone West. Which is absolutely fantastic. That's really what we are about as an organisation. One of our key values as an organisation is collaboration, and we believe in the power of that. So we're just going to give you a bit of a background on who Gone West is, what we actually do. We've got some fabulous video content that we'll sprinkle in throughout our presentation, and Cameron and I will give you a bit of an update on what we've been doing, what got us to where we are now, and what we're currently working on. So fab. So Cameron, do you want to take it from the top?
From the top. Luckily, I wasn't there. I think it was about like 10 years ago. A fellow named James was planting trees to make money, as you do in the timber industry. And when you tree plant, you spend a lot of time in the field by yourself, thinking. And he spent his time thinking about, okay, how can we do this better, where we're not going to destroy the land, we're not going to cut down the trees. And I think he came up with 1,000,001 ideas, and we've been trying to put those into practice. And so as the years went on, he collaborated, as Wendy said, with many people who maybe didn't know anything about tree planting, but they learned, sometimes on the job, sometimes from afar, as you did, Wendy.
Indeed. Yeah, I had absolutely no background in tree planting before I joined Gone West. So over the 3 years that I've been working with the organisation, I've definitely learned a lot.
Yeah, same. I just did yard work for my parents when I needed to make a little money, moving rocks or planting something or digging a hole. And luckily that was in me, because it's come in handy. Didn't think that would be the case, but and I met James in India traveling, and he told me about some of his plans and how he wanted to use tree planting as a way to empower travelers. And I was like, that's pretty sweet. What he meant was people could come and plant trees and make money and then travel. and travel kind of in a more sustainable way, because they would have done all this good work for the planet, left the forest behind them. So to then go pursue their goals, I was like, that's pretty neat. Maybe I'll do that one day. And then that day came unexpectedly, because I literally just got out of a detention center near Stansted for just basically disagreeing with a border control officer about your right to travel places, and they said, no, you can't travel here, so we'll put you in jail and then send you back where you came from. So this ended up costing me a lot of money, and I needed a job afterwards. So I went to plant trees and ended up involved in one of the biggest adventures of my life. The whole jail thing that was child's play. This has been quite an adventure.
Indeed. And I think, it's Gone West is a grassroots organisation, and James has really been the visionary behind the whole concept. I think one important thing to note is that what Cameron says is, James had 1,000,001 different ideas, and we've tried 1,000,001 different ideas throughout the last few years of building this company to understand what works. So where we've talked previously in the week about that not having that fear of failure, we've definitely tried a few things. They've definitely not worked, and we've had to just work our way through it, with the sustainable, responsible tree planting being at the core of everything that we do, but then understanding kind of what that business model looks like, and actually how we can grow as a business to develop products that people want to engage with. So Gone West was established back in 2015 by James, who, as Cameron mentioned, had spent, a good 8 years planting trees himself for the commercial forestry sector. James had one clear vision and one clear idea, is that trees are worth more than their value of timber, in terms of biodiversity, their contribution to our natural world, their contribution to us and our ability to live as in humanity. And so, this concept kind of grew from there. We're really fortunate in the sense of this has started to grow, and so far we've planted more than 4 million trees now, and we've been able to give jobs to more than 150 young people who have come through our organisation and planted trees. It's been a really eye-opening experience for all of us, and we're very grateful to have the opportunity to be able to do everything that we do in terms of putting trees in the ground and creating social impact off the back of that. And really everything that we do has a very equal balance between providing social and environmental benefits in everything that we do. We're currently working towards becoming a B Corporation.
Certified as a B Corp. Sorry, Wendy.
Certified as a B Corporation. Yeah, so we're just embarking on that journey, which we know is not going to be a short one or an easy one, but we're up to the challenge. And we've managed to support a number of different projects around the world, and like Cameron's mentioned, setting the stage for innovative and sustainable business practices. So I think, sorry, my scroller not working there, is it? So shall we kick off with the first video, Cameron?
Yeah, let's take you guys back. So I'm a filmmaker by trade, and when I first went to see James to do some planting, the idea was to shoot a commercial. And when I arrived, he basically said straight up, he said, look, I'm still going to pay you, but there's no commercial going to happen. We have to work. So you might as well just shoot a documentary. And yeah, that's why I'm here. So thanks for that one, Jimbo.
And so this was the start, and this will give you all a bit of a background and introduce you to our wonderful managing director, Mr. James Hughes.
We were just talking about basically everyone wanting to be a millionaire by the time they're 30.
Produce the screen, Wendy.
A millionaire by the time we're 30, but not with money, with trees.
It's a radio play.
Sorry, you can't see the
It's
screen.
a radio play. I can't see it.
You can't see the screen.
I can see the PowerPoint still, but I cannot see the video.
Namisha, what can you see? Can you just clarify for me?
I can only see the PowerPoints. I think if you want to display stuff, you have to stick to one screen.
Okay, hold on one moment. let's just come back. And then I know why it was, because when we set this up earlier, I was like, oh, I need to do that. And now I've forgotten.
Nice shirt.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Looks snazzy. First talk of the day. We all look good on the first talk of the day.
Right, can you see that?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Let's
From
go
the-
back
from
to the
the top.
beginning. Apologies for, we should have this down by now. 4 days in. Okay, from the top.
Talking about basically everyone wanting to be a millionaire by the time they're 30. And I kind of want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, but not with money, with trees. People often say, like, are we crazy? But we've planted nearly 1 million trees now with the help of over 60 different people. So we can't be that crazy, eh? Who is we? Every single person that's come and broken their backs, working hard for the planet, planting trees. We've had people from all over the globe, all different walks of life come and plant. That is we. I've seen grown men crying, and I've seen a little city kid like myself learning, growing and excelling. Some people hate it, some people love it, but everyone takes away an experience from doing it. The documentary is getting scrapped. It's almost bordering on insanity. This whole video thing. We're scrapping it. Put it in the vault. This is not what I signed up for, Cameron.
Love the camera.
Love the camera, that's it. Jimmy Hughes, tree planter extraordinaire. Give me a call. My rates are very reasonable.
Yeah,
I love that.
that's what won me over, anyways.
Indeed. Let me find, where have I put that now? Okay, so so that gives you a bit of background, shows you some of the sort of personality of Gone West and who we are as a business. So that kind of brings us on to the next piece that we wanted to share with you, which is how we've been able to grow as an organization. Obviously, as we mentioned, we've been established since 2015. And last year we decided to embark on a very unusual for us journey in trying to raise some equity investment into our business, which we did through the Cedars platform. And we launched this campaign, which kind of ran approximately from start to finish over around 8 months last year, that we would sell some shares in the company to raise some money that we could then invest back into the business to help us grow. For every share was £10, and with every share we planted a tree for that particular share that was sold. So it was a really interesting journey for us. There was a lot of learning that took place along that journey, but we're really, really proud to be able to say that we managed to smash our target by more than 50% and raise over £150,000 worth of investment into the business as a result of more than 350 investors. So this was a really pivotal time for us as a business to prove the concept and, for ourselves to understand that we are on the right track, to be able to develop a number of new partnerships as a result of this, of the round itself. And just to be able to engage with our customers and potential market on a much wider platform and on a much wider stage. Yeah,
I guess just to prove that we could do it, we could break kind of out of our place in the forestry sector, which was a place of being like a subcontractor and someone who's never going to be able to make decisions on like how a site's going to be planted or anything like that. And it somehow managed to just like blast out of the box with this campaign, trying to prove that, trees are worth way more than timber, and they can create a lot of benefit. So, but first we had to find some land and a project that we thought embodied that and that we wanted to support.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
the next slides are just some more information about kind of what we saw as the problems in the forestry sector. Well, we amassed a team first. That was cool. It grew quite a bit from one man in a van. Team from like 3 different continents, I think.
Yeah. So I think the Cedars campaign, as you mentioned, Cameron, was a really pivotal point for us as a business, in the sense of we knew that we needed to expand the team to be able to give ourselves the resources to be able to complete the campaign. We're very, very fortunate in the sense of we've just got a really kind of great mix of people on our team, all who have completely different skill set. We don't have a physical office. We all work remotely. So I myself, although I'm from the UK, am based in Portugal. Cameron, although he's from the US, he's currently in Croatia, but can usually
Correct.
be found in Berlin. And we've got a number of different people all across the world, really. You know, we've got Jimmy, who's our head of research, who's Kenyan based, studying in Italy. You know, we've got people in Czech Republic. So yeah, we've got a really wonderful team of people. And like
Italy.
I say, yeah, we've got a lot of Italians on the team, our fabulous Italians. But yeah, a really broad spectrum of personalities, different skill sets, who all come together, who all bring something totally unique to our team, and who have really been a driving force in both the success of the Cedars campaign, and will continue to drive the business forward and to achieve the goals for growth that we're aiming for.
Yeah.
So these are kind of our business. We kind of divide it into 3 key pillars, and we'll just talk briefly through those so that you can understand what they are. So the first one is our forestry services. So this, up until more recently, has been the pillar that really underpins everything that Gone West does. It's been what's been the driving force in our revenue, and sustaining everybody that's in the business through being able to pay wages. And it's come off the back of James's experience in the commercial forestry sector. But we're really trying to transform that sector. And as a business, there are certain things that we will and we won't work with. You know, we will always avoid working with pesticides. We will only plant native forests. But this is some of the problems that we face with forestry services, and especially within the commercial forestry sector, is that these practices are not particularly common, and we're really trying to shape the industry from within for them to understand that there is a more sustainable approach to all of this work, and we're living proof that that is possible and can still be profitable. The next section is our product development side of the business, which is our quickest growing segment of the business at the moment. And this is really around developing innovative corporate social responsibility solutions for customers, for clients. And what we mean by that is giving people a tool or some tools or something to work with, whereby they can engage their employees or they can engage their customers in their CSR activity by doing something good, by planting some trees with us, and finding a really engaging way to tell that story and being able to engage those stakeholders within the business.
And then I'd finish the website today, so I'll do Plant and Protect. If you go to gonewest.com, you'll get a very nice description of what this is all about. But I'll tell you now, Plant and Protect is basically about trying to support land around the world which is either under threat or has already been destroyed. Basically, half the world's topsoil is gone, and so we need to focus on how to restore that, because we can't seem to protect it. So what we've done is we've partnered with groups like ecosystem restoration camps, who make it possible to plant trees in these areas. You can't just plant trees, because the area that you can plant trees is getting smaller and smaller. Soon there'll be none left. So you need to restore soil. So we're working with projects like ERC, We're working with smaller projects who maybe don't have funding at all to even get started or to, you know, plant trees. So we work with them in creative ways to support them. And ultimately, we want to have as much land as possible at our own disposal so that we can then basically just lend it to really awesome projects that want to be guardians of the land, stewards of the land, who want to take care of it properly, you know, and show what you can do. Because you know, we actually wouldn't know what to do with a bunch of land, with a forest, if we had it. But there's a lot of projects who do.
I'm not sure about that, Cameron.
Well, I don't. I have no clue. I would make I put a hammock up and probably just relax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's yeah, plant and protect is kind of everything that we do. All of the trees that come through our product development, so all of the trees that we plant on behalf of our clients, on behalf of our customers. So obviously we have a number of different products that we sell on our website that enable people to kind of offset their air travel, you know, offset their life. All of these trees go into our plant and protect projects. And what's fundamentally meant by that is that we plant native trees, native to the area in which they're being planted in. And these trees will never be cut down. And the partners, if we don't plant them ourselves, the partners that we work with agree to that, make sure that they agree to that, they own the land, so that we know that there's no fear of somebody else coming along and being able to cut those trees down at a later date. But that's one of the key areas of the business that we're kind of working really rigorously on at the moment, to be able to develop more opportunities and open up that to more projects around the world.
Yeah, so the only last point of that I totally skipped over was there's so much social benefit to owning land, and this is something that's really been taken away from people historically. The ability to own land is a very, very privileged thing. So we want to try to enable as many people as possible to have a second chance, you know, and own some land and have some autonomy, so that they can have, you know, their own clean water, they can have their own soil, they can harvest their own energy from the sun, from the water, and not have to rely on anyone else's permission, you know, to survive. So that for me is a big inspiration on why we're doing this whole thing, you know.
Yeah, and I definitely think you're right there. It's really empowering to the communities that we work with. You know, it's the type of tree that we plant will be dependent on what the requirements are of that local community. For example, maybe somewhere in South America or somewhere in Africa, they may request more fruit trees, because obviously there's a source of food within those trees. So we also, you know, we don't necessarily go in and dictate as to what should be there. We get guidance from local experts and local people within that area that can guide us on what the best trees are, what the land needs there, and what the local community needs. So, you know, we never go in like a bull in a china shop saying this is what you must have. It's always a conversation first to understand how we can best support those communities and support those projects. And some of those projects will simply be, we just want to put some trees in the ground. Obviously, we have to make sure that we're doing that, you know, we do our due diligence around that. Planting trees where there aren't trees can be detrimental to the local biodiversity, as weird as that sounds. But we're obviously, especially in the UK, there's a lot of legislation around how you can plant trees, and that has to be signed off before any trees can go into the ground. So yeah, so we kind of have to adapt based on the area that we're working with, based on the climates, based on, you know, the different environmental challenges that each of those areas face. And we're very fortunate that we have, you know, a really wonderful team surrounding us that has the knowledge and expertise to be able to do that effectively. But yeah, so we touched upon what those problems were before. Well, we didn't actually, we talked more about the solutions, but just to recap. So what we're doing with—
Now you can read them.
what we're doing with the forestry services now is we're really trying to channel regenerative systems within that industry. So pushing contractors to work more towards continuous cover forestry, native woodland creation, and agroforestry. With our product development, we're making sure that we're designing and developing clean and clear options, but also tailor-made options that really engage those companies and those clients that we're working with. And then obviously, as Cameron's just touched upon, with the Plant and Protect, just giving back to the land, giving back to those local communities, and trying to work within the concept of the 4 returns model, so that everything we do when it comes to planting is based on 4 specific returns, which are financial, social, inspirational, and natural. So providing a return on all 4 of those areas. So I'm not sure. So actually, but we'll just go back to this slide, and I just want to mention that as Cameron touched upon briefly when we were talking about our investment campaign, we had to find a project that we thought was a good fit for planting the 16,000 trees that we needed to plant as a result of our equity funding campaign. And as I mentioned before, I'm based here in Portugal, and something that I think quite a few people know about, but maybe you don't, is that Portugal has a real issue with forestry here because of eucalyptus planting. The paper industry in Portugal is Portugal's biggest commodity, its largest export. And so a lot of the ground, of the woodlands here, the forests here, and all of the natural land is being swallowed up by eucalyptus plantations. The local people here are being paid a lot of money to grow that for the paper industry. And we came across a project that's called the Wildlings Project, which is a community of people living in central Portugal who have collectively managed to buy quite a significant amount of land where they are. And the reason that they actually, one of the driving forces behind that was due to the devastating forest fires that were here in, I want to say 2016, but I always get it confused. It might be 2000. I think
it was both.
Yeah, well, there were fires on both years. And the reason that we have the fires here is twofold. One is because the eucalyptus tree burns so quickly and is so flammable in terms of the oil that it gives off, that it spits fireballs left, right, and center, and so the forest itself spreads, you know, as they term it, like wildfire at an inordinate speed. It's hugely dangerous. There was actually, I think, around 100 people that died in that big forest fire, and it was actually, when you look at the size of it, the fire itself was 5 times the size of Paris, and this was all in central Portugal. The other reason that the fire spread so quickly is because the number of native trees that are in that area are just being depleted massively to make way for more eucalyptus. So it's a really vicious circle. And the organization that we partnered with, which is the Wildlings organization, they really understand the value of nature. They really understand the value of having native forests and the natural fire resilience that can provide to them. And so they were quite a natural fit for us. So we actually decided to plant all 16,000 trees with the Wildlings project here in central Portugal. And I'm just going to share now with you a quick video which shows you a little bit about that day, if I can get this off my screen. Okay, sorry, slide technical.
And you can imagine these guys all just moved from like Berlin and Amsterdam and from away from their, you know, city lives, and came and built beautiful tree houses and were living in the wild. And then one day you walk outside and there's a fireball coming through the sky to burn you down.
So here we go.
And it's our 3rd planting day with the community. And today we will reach the halfway milestone where more than 10,000 native trees will be in the ground, no matter the weather.
surgi durante as últimas 2 semanas foi parte da equipa de organização deste projeto. Fantástico, sim. Temos várias pessoas de vários níveis de experiência neste tipo de coisa, mas conjunto, sim, fazemos uma equipa fantástica. É uma lição para mim também.
For years, when we planted ourselves, you could see, your work being done within your own arm's reach. And I just love these planting days where you start on your patch, but you can see the work being done far, far off into the horizon. And it just feels like together we can do amazing things like plant forests.
The Gone West dream is to plant forests just like this with people from all over the planet.
We came from the Netherlands by train because we decided that we want to donate / invest part of our revenue to a reforesting project.
I think this is a very interesting and good place because people are working together and cooperating very well to do this project together, and they really know how to do it.
We think it's important that we both rewild the landscape as well as our human selves, to become more independent, self-sufficient in our basic needs, to redefine luxury and come to a place of harmony and unity with ourselves and the natural environment surrounding us. Today was another great example how we can achieve that, because together we are stronger.
So that was super cool. And those guys were actually the ones who introduced us to the term rewilding, which is now one of our kind of guiding principles when we're doing plant and protect and trying to implement that as much into our forestry sector as we can. And things are changing quickly, actually. So that's the good news.
Yeah, that was the partnership with Wildlings was really interesting in terms of the fact that they really taught us a lot, especially about the landscape here in Portugal. And that's where we touched upon again, is just making sure that we understand from the local community point of view what their requirements are, what challenges that they're facing. And, you know, in this sense, it was the challenge of being able to create natural fire resilient landscape, which can be done through planting native trees. When Cameron and I first went to look at that project and meet Lynn, who is the kind of spearhead of that organisation, we were just absolutely astonished by the devastation that was still visible in the landscape for miles and miles. Just these black spines of trees still in the ground that you could just see, and you know, as far as the eye could see, and it was really powerful to see that and actually understand that there wasn't a huge amount of news coverage about it at the time. It was really eye-opening to us, and that's why we felt that this community was doing something really amazing in terms of bringing together, you know, local Portuguese people, you know, immigrants that moved to the area, just with one common vision, which was to make sure that their landscape and the local nature around them was protected to the best of their ability. So yeah, we were very, very proud to work with that organisation and be able to plant 16,000 trees there. So yeah, so that kind of wrapped up the Cedars campaign for us. But as we mentioned before, we were very fortunate in the sense of we were talking to a lot of different people throughout that campaign. Different partnerships were kind of opening up because of that. And the next one kind of leads us very nicely into the next part of our journey, which is the product development side and what we're doing to be able to create really innovative solutions that companies can work with. So this is...
So to celebrate for succeeding in Cedars, we made a beer with an award-winning Italian brewery called Hammer Brewery, and they were just super keen to work with us and to develop the first of our products, which we called For the Planet this beer. Now we have a whole initiative called For the Planet. So whether it's a beer or a coffee or a skateboard, you can empower your products. You can give them a purpose by creating these social and environmental benefits at the same time. So your customers feel empowered because they're choosing, you know? I mean, it's been one of many conversations, part of many conversations this week.
Yeah.
That we have to vote with our dollar, you know?
Indeed.
What
And
you
I
want to
think,
support.
yeah, and I think, you know, it's very similar in a way to the work that Brew Gooder were doing. I don't know if most of you caught the Brew Gooder conversation towards the beginning of the week. But, you know, Alan has kind of taken this concept and wrapped it into a product. But we know that our area of expertise is tree planting. That's what we're good at. That's what we know. And so rather than creating a product, we actually decided that the way that we could have the most impact was actually just being able to develop branding and marketing assets for different clients that could then channel some of those profits back into tree planting, which would then help balance their company environmental footprint, and at the same time engage with their customers in terms of showcasing them as a brand that is doing something towards sustainability and is doing something towards balancing their own carbon or environmental footprint. Try avoid the word using the word carbon, because it's not necessarily the best word to use. But yeah, and I guess that this is where, as a company, we really see our unique selling point. And I'm just going to pimp you out here, Cameron, but Cameron is kind of, as far as I'm concerned, one of the biggest unique selling points that we have as an organization because of his amazing ability and creativity when it comes to videography, and that vision around design and integrating with customer products. So we're going to show you another very short video now, which showcases the Hammer for the Planet. So that one is here.
Salute.
Just a short one.
Appunto, piantare alberi, creare questi polmoni, creare bellezza, perché alla fine anche un albero, oltre all'ossigeno che ci dà, c'è anche molta bellezza. Lo facciamo soltanto per noi, ma facciamo per questa grande massa. Di tutti viviamo. Hammer for the Planet.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that was the maiden product of For the Planet, which we've now started to expand. And I mean, it's not the answer. I'll just point that out there. It's not the answer, but it's an amazing way to. There's got to be a better way. There is. We're gonna get there together one day, but we have to start having these conversations, you know. And I think the most important thing is, I guess, this beer plants trees, right? But maybe the conversation that happens over this beer is going to create something much better. you know. So
Yeah.
trying to keep this in the public eye, give people that sense that they can do something. I think that's it, because feeling powerless is never, that's our biggest weakness, I guess. That's like kind of the biggest threat we have, is feeling that we can't make a difference. So
Yeah.
I know it sounds silly because it's a beer, but it can apply to anything, seriously. And your customers will be the ones who choose whether they want to make a difference or not.
And we see that massively in consumer buying, but trends, you know, buying behavior trends. You know, there's been recent reports that come out that said 85% of customers would now much rather choose an eco-friendly product or an eco-friendly brand over one that isn't. So we recognize the importance of this, and actually the impact that we can have, and how we can support businesses to develop products that speak to those customers. Like we say, we do not in any way agree with greenwashing. So everything that we do has to be understood by the clients that we work with, in terms of us being able to kind of audit their carbon, to identify whether they can actually say, as a result of the sales of this product, have you planted enough trees to offset what you're doing? And if they haven't, just making sure that they're in no way trying to communicate that. And those are some of the challenges that I guess we do face. I think the really interesting thing that's come out of this is that actually it's been a lot of sustainable brands that have approached us, that have wanted to work with us, that have said, look, we're sustainable in what we do, but we recognize there is still this residual amount of emissions that what we're doing is not offsetting, and that we're, you know, we can't quite balance. We want to plant some trees to be able to really make sure that we're operating like on a carbon zero level. So let's work together and find a way to do that. So it's definitely been interesting. And what we are now looking to do as well is to roll out a slightly less tailor-made version of this, which we want to collaborate with the guys that you saw from Silvertree. So to be able, on their platform, for their customers and the businesses that operate with them, to be able to choose one of their products or their services and be able to get a seal of approval which says that a proportion of that service or that product goes to tree planting. So that's a few things that we've got coming up in the pipeline. There'll be a lot more. And if you follow us on Facebook and Instagram, you'll see as and when those new developments come up. But so far, For the Planet, we're just seeing going from strength to strength. And when we were saying earlier about throwing these ideas around to see what sticks, this is one that's been really stuck. And we're very fortunate to have Cameron on board and the rest of the team making this happen. So just to recap on that, so For the Planet, it enriches different products and it helps empower customers by planting trees, and this is kind of how it looks. So clean and green, we love that. But providing partners with different brand assets and creative support that they can then utilize to speak to their employee, whether it be their employee base or their customer base, about this particular product or service that then supports tree planting and helps to balance their environmental footprint. I'm just conscious of time, Cameron, because we're going to need some questions. So that kind of leads us on to where we are now.
Yeah, then the world collapsed and we had to do
yeah, pretty much. We came out of the Cedars campaign at the end of February, so just before everything with COVID really kind of hit. And our initial plan was kind of to take a little bit of a step back as a business, to realign our value, realign our mission, and really map out the strategy that we demonstrated in the Cedars campaign for our next 5 years of growth. So that was a really nice idea, and we'd all worked really hard for 8 months, and then COVID hit, and it was like, oh my God. And we were very, very fortunate in the sense that tree planting was deemed as essential work by the UK government. So we managed to finish up this planting season relatively uninterrupted. But this story dropped in our laps and we just couldn't ignore it. And I'll pass over to you, Cameron, to tell them about that.
So the story that Wendy's referring to was a Sunday Times article about local nurseries in the UK who were basically left holding the bag. They had like 500,000 or more trees, young trees, oak saplings about this big. And basically, for one reason or another, the buyers decided to pull out. And so they published an article saying, look, we're going to have to burn these trees. So we basically said, we can't let that happen. It's like in our backyard. These are English oak trees. Come on, we can find a home for them. And then, well, this just began a massive undertaking that we didn't see coming. But as you see there's the Prince's Trust feathers, and we definitely never really expected to see them next to our name this year. But thanks to none other than Namisha, who is our host, and Brenda Gabriel, they were able to link us up with the trust and say, look, we know you guys want to do something with these trees. We also know you guys love, working for good social causes. So what if we rescue these trees and also give support to young people who can use some rescuing themselves at the moment?
Yeah, and that's where the concept was kind of born, was we were looking for a charitable element. Like, we knew that we wanted to do something. And when Namisha and Brenda presented the Prince's Trust to us, for us, it was an easy decision. 99% of all of the planters that come through our organization are 18 to 30. A lot of them have come from disadvantaged backgrounds, or quite, feel maybe a little bit of a misfit in society, are looking for something more alternative out of the mainstream societal career paths. And so for us, it was a really great fit. So we teamed up with the Trust to be able to develop the campaign, to be able to provide 3 really overarching themes of the campaign. Sorry, I'm trying to read this as I'm going along. So basically what it is obviously we're on a mission to save these trees. For every tree that we save, a donation goes to the Young People Relief Fund that the girls were talking about on when they opened up the summit on Monday. So we're channeling money directly into that fund, which is providing immediate support to those people that are currently at risk or need advice or assistance or resources. The work that they're doing in that really spoke to us, because it is providing action as well, providing food vouchers and providing online learning opportunities for young people to be able to upskill, to give them the best possible opportunity to get into employment post-COVID-19. But the third thing that came out as a result of this was the fact that we knew that we wanted to create an ongoing partnership with the Prince's Trust to be able to support these young people in more than just a cash donation. But so we're now developing a 5-year employment program with the Trust. So a proportion of every tree that's sold is going towards the funding for that. So we're hoping to be able to raise enough funds to be able to funnel more than 1,000 young people into sustainable forestry work coming through the Prince's Trust and Gone West in partnership. So it's a really, really exciting campaign. And we talked briefly about that everything that we do from a planting perspective has these 4 returns that we aim for. And we very much feel that this campaign encompasses all of that as well. So yeah, it's a really fantastic campaign, and I think the one that we've been most proud to work on, especially in a time of such uncertainty, and especially with the reports that come out from the Prince's Trust, looking at the statistics of how hard young people are going to be hit by this crisis, in terms of employment opportunities, as and when we start to go back to normal.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't even really realize the parallels here, but back when I was 18, I joined the National Civilian Community Corps in America. It's called AmeriCorps for short. And it's basically like Peace Corps, but domestic, and it's just based around young people getting together in teams, traveling around the country, being, looking after themselves and working. I was working 60, 70-hour weeks in New Orleans building houses. That was where I ended up, and it was awesome. And it was my mom actually who told me about this, and she had referenced the kind of the ancestor organization, the CCC, the Civilian Community Corps, which was developed by Franklin Delano Roosevelt after the Great Depression, basically to fight the Great Depression. Because like now, there's just this possibility that we're going to lose a whole generation of young people, because we basically there's nothing we can offer them, you know. And not just that, there's such a humongous disaster just looming on the horizon, and this is the time. This is the time to basically make the new CCC, or in this case, the nickname was the Tree Army. So our new forestry program with Prince's Trust, we're really, really like fighting to make this the seed of the new Tree Army and give young people the tools they need to basically protect their future. Because, I mean, it's terrifying, you know. But when you pick up a shovel, or even a you know, you can work on creatively. There's many different jobs that we've discovered are made possible by tree planting and by, you know, stepping up and partaking in this fight for the planet. So that's definitely, I didn't know this was like a 10-year journey for me, but it's all just came together now thanks to this campaign.
Yeah, so I was having a conversation with a woman last week in regards to them coming on board as a potential corporate supporter for the campaign. And she said to me, oh, I just never really thought about tree planting as, you know, a real job or a real career. And I said, well, you'd be surprised, and for a number of different reasons. So we don't expect everybody to come through this program to go on and be a professional tree planter or rise up the ranks to become a foreman or a forestry planner and a forestry manager. But what it does do is, first of all, some of those people may do. Some of them may go on to work and own nurseries. Some of them may go off into other different areas of the forestry and agricultural sort of work. But what it does is right now, and this was some of the other backlash that we got on social media, is that tree planting only runs for a season. There's a season, you know, and during the summer we don't generally plant trees. So you're not really providing jobs to people, you're providing seasonal work. And my argument to that is, what's the problem with that? If people can come to us and they can work a season and they can earn enough money to be able to go out and fulfill the other dreams that they have, whether that be through starting their own business or whether that be through traveling, you know, going off and traveling the world. If we can be a facilitator in that process, and at the same time they can learn about sustainable forestry, they can learn about nature, they can learn about the power of community, they can form that family bond with other tree planters and make friends for life, then is that not a better job than stacking shelves in an Amazon warehouse where you're not allowed to go for a toilet break? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I know which one I would rather choose. And I think that's the thing, is that, you know, you can see Olive here in the picture. She's an artist. She's come back to us for a couple of seasons. And I think that there's a slight addiction to tree planting once you do it. We get a lot of the people coming back season after season. And you know what they do? They take the summer holiday. They take those summer months to go off and enjoy the money that they've spent going back, you know, going to visit their family, stay with friends, go and do traveling, and they come back again. And I just think that it opens up so many opportunities for people that we don't even think about, especially not those of us that maybe have come from cities, who don't even actually realize that this is a job and this is a way that I can earn, you know, fairly decent money, and gain new skills in the process.
And I think it's also important to highlight, right? Like, and I'm just speaking from personal experience based on just how my career grew. And there's not always a one size that fits all. So for all of you who are young and you're watching and you're kind of debating, you know, what do you want to do with yourself? It's okay not to know that. And it's okay to try different things, you know.
Absolutely.
Don't underestimate the value of, you know, I mean, obviously, I haven't had the fortune of going and planting trees, but trust me, I'm going to be nagging this team to do some tree planting myself. But I can only reflect on the stuff I did in my childhood that was based out in nature. So that could be, so we in UK we have the Duke of Edinburgh Awards, and in Kenya the equivalent is the President's Awards, and that was something I did whilst I lived out there. And okay, it's not the same thing as going out and tree planting, but you know, you're out there in a team. You're working together to achieve an outcome. You're collectively looking out for each other. Like the vast amount of skills that you guys as young people could build by being in these jobs. It's exactly what Wendy said. It's, you don't have to stick with it forever, but it's just a great, you know, baseline to do skill building.
Mm.
And another reason I advocate so much for these sorts of jobs is I think young people sometimes fall in this mental trap of believing that the big city and, you know, the corporate job is like exactly what is perfect for them, and it's going to, you know, bring them all sorts of prosperity in life. I'm not trying to slate corporate jobs, guys, but I'm just saying that, you know, you can't fault jobs that get young people outdoors and moving and on their feet. You know, I think one of my biggest pet peeves with my job is that I just sit at a table all day long. So when you think of all of these things, again, you know, tree planting is such a good thing just for sustainable development goals, like good health and well-being. You know, Cameron and I were talking about it a few days ago. We said being in forests helps release, what did you call it, Cameron?
The trees release phytocides, which basically are just like incredible medicine for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, you get all of this, and you get paid to do it. That's the funny thing. It's
I
like an
would say,
adventure.
but the
It's
other thing is that when you look at the team in Gone West, we look at Jack. Jack came to us as a tree planter. Jack really wanted to get involved more with the business, and he came and worked with me. He flew out to Portugal, stayed in a hostel for 2 months, and came to the co-working space to learn everything that I knew about Gone West. Jack's now heads up our contracting operations, has a full-time job with shares in our business. You've got Jimmy, who came to us as an intern, who now heads up our research team. You know, so it does open other opportunities for people as well, especially Gone West as an organization where we're continuing to grow. We're always looking for young, enthusiastic people that want to learn. And I think I've got away kind of relatively unscathed, because I'm probably one of the only people in the team that hasn't actually done a ton of tree planting. But it's almost like it's almost like the only barrier to entry to come and work for us is that you really need to plant some trees first. I think I was here before that was made a rule.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, definitely some of the better times of the last year were just being part of the squad, you know, being in the field, much healthier pace of life than living in Berlin, which was my other job, running a co-working space for filmmakers. Tree planting wins every time. And that, I mean, it's difficult. You have to do a lot of problem solving. You have to be patient, have a lot of, you know, stamina, both mentally and physically. The foremans are just on another level, you know, because they have to be really focused all the time to make sure everyone else is safe and productive. And it's just, yeah, I mean, again, it's a humongous skill building opportunity that you get paid to do. So I guess we like tree planting. Okay.
Yeah. Nim, how are we doing for time? Have we got another couple of minutes, or have we got something coming up next?
No, the next session's not till 6, so
fabulous. We'll keep going then. No, it's just we've got a couple more slides that we wanted to talk to, and we just wanted to showcase the campaign video. So for those of you, and I'm sure everybody does, but the summit is one of the events that's obviously collaborating with our Acorns to Oaks project. So every single one of you that bought a ticket to attend here today, a tree has been rescued on your behalf in that ticket price. If you were lucky enough to get a free ticket in some sorts, any donation as big or as small as you can afford, you can make through the Eventbrite page. There's absolutely no minimum. All of the money goes into this wonderful campaign that we're running. And I think I just want to kind of finish off by showcasing the campaign video, and then we'll just open it up and see if anybody's got any questions, and we'll just take those and finish with those. So just bear with me one moment for the fourth and final video. This one is very short, so don't panic too much. And I'd just like to say that every video apart from the Wildlings video was shot by Cameron. He's hugely talented. We're very lucky to have him. So here we go.
It's a rescue mission to save 500,000 trees and to give our youth a chance to make a better world. To grow, create, work, travel, learn, build, share, keep working, keep playing, keep going forward. Before
Actually, Wendy, I didn't shoot that one because I was in quarantine, so that was all stock footage.
Well, it's all stock footage that you've shot anyway. So, but no, so that's just sums up the video for us. And I don't know if any of you recognise the narrator of that video, but it's our very own lovely Namisha.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been very, very fortunate to work with Namisha and Brenda on this campaign. We're hugely thankful to them for the partnership that they've been able to bridge with us with the Prince's Trust, and many of the other organisations that have spoken at the event today. So I guess that's probably it from us. We could probably talk for another hour, but we don't want to bore you. So are there any questions?
Can you go to the last slide, by the way? It's like super sleek, like Star Wars looking. And like none of these pictures, by the way, are posed. Like this is just how people look when they work. I just want to point that out. Like it's awesome. All right. Any questions?
Do you know, we got accused of our planters looking too cool. As somebody said to us the other day, if your planters spent less time looking cool and more time planting trees, would probably be okay.
Be like, I'm going to reach into there and smack you with those silly.
I said, to be perfectly honest, they put enough trees in the ground that I really couldn't give a what they look like.
Yeah.
All right, so we do have a question from someone in the audience. So they say, I'm from Portugal and was super happy with what Wendy was saying about the projects in Portugal. I didn't know if you talked about this, but besides the independent purchase of land to grow local trees, how difficult is it, or would it be, to get landowners that grow eucalyptus to replace a percentage of the land to grow with indigenous trees instead? That's a really good question.
It's a tough one, and it is a very tough one. It's the reason it's tough is because the paper industry pays so well. You know, we need to establish a way that these landowners can generate money from their land, and it doesn't necessarily need to meet the same level as what the eucalyptus or the paper industry is paying. But the problem is that a lot of the time, if they're not planting eucalyptus, the land isn't bringing them any or generating any revenue whatsoever. So at the moment, the biggest challenge is what can they do with their land that would subsequently give them some form of revenue, even if it's not enough. And I know we just did a big campaign after the Wildlings campaign, which was called Free Trees for Portugal. Cameron, I know that I believe that you were working quite closely with some of those other projects there. So how are those other projects sort of generating revenue from the land that they own?
Well, honestly, it was happening next to me, but I didn't have my hands on it. I think they generally, I mean, like the Hurleys, you know, some friends of ours who are living basically off grid in Portugal. The cost of life becomes so low that you don't really need to generate a lot of revenue. You know, you can live remotely, you can do your job online, and you just have a safe place in the world. And I think that was most of it, you know, and providing your own, I mean, providing food for yourself is a full-time job as well.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, keep an eye actually on on the news in the Algarves right now. There was more forest fires like a week ago, and some of our friends actually just lost their entire 7 years of work. Everyone's okay from that project, but yeah, like an incredibly beautiful kind of dream that they built together just got burned down in an instant. So
and I think what you're saying is kind of, that's definitely not a one size fits all. I think from the person that asked the question and from living here, is what I see is that the people who grow this eucalyptus and the people that have the land are not the type of people that work from home. They're not the type of people that actually want to live an off-grid life. I think that the pull of the money is what really drives them to grow the eucalyptus in the first place. I think a lot of them realize like how damaging it is, both, you know, to the soil environment, I mean, if you are in central Portugal, the thing that struck me the most when I was living more centrally was the sheer lack of wildlife, because it's just monoculture plantations, otherwise, and they're otherwise known as green deserts because nothing can really live off the trees, and there's not really any other plant matter. I think what we need to look to do, and I don't think it's something that Gone West would be geared up to do, but what my suggestion would be is for an organization, or potentially there's a gap there for a new organization to come in that could potentially use the farm for sort of micro agricultural projects, so that something was still being grown on the land, that's something that could be sold, but it was being managed in a more sustainable way. And I would look at that then more as a rental of the land, with a return on the investment from the products that are being grown there. That's just what I'm thinking off the top of my head. Yeah. Right now, I don't think that there is any solution that I'm particularly aware of, or nothing that springs to mind. And yeah, I do think it's one of the biggest challenges that Portugal faces right now. And I think that the paper industry needs to take a big amount of responsibility in that. And they need to take responsibility for the devastation that they're causing in both, as I've mentioned, the environmental, you know, the devastation to the soil, the devastation through the forest fires, and the sheer lack of wildlife that now just is nowhere to be seen in central Portugal.
Yeah.
I think also that's something important to recognize, right? Like, wherever we have non-native trees that are planted in regions where they're not really meant to be there, is probably where you see a lot of forest fires happen.
Yep.
So, you know, again, I know it's really tough for us as everyday consumers to think, I mean, my cat feels so passionate about this as well, but like, tough for us as everyday consumers to constantly be so diligent about the things we buy. But I think, you know, we can definitely advocate for some of these industries by just not buying those products and just being a little bit more diligent about, you know, where our paper is coming from. And if you don't need to use paper, don't use paper.
Well, that's it, isn't it? And I think that that's the work that is, it will be interesting to see over the next 10 years what the paper industry actually looks like, as everything now is moving to digital. You know, there's not many things. I mean, I bought a printer the other day specifically to be able to print a couple of documents, and I've got it home, and I wondered why I've actually even bought it, because I just have a real lack of it. It's one of those things that's very useful to have as and when you need it. I'm in an unfortunate area where there are no local services to me that I can get anything printed by. But I mean, it just sits there. I mean, what do we have to print in this day and age? You know, everything's digital. So it would be really interesting actually to see what happens with the paper industry. And I think that was a real learning experience for me, because I never before I came to Portugal, I didn't even realize that paper was made specifically from eucalyptus. And then when I got over here, having lived in Australia for a few years, I was really confused, because I was like, why does this look like Australia? And then realized it was because of the eucalyptus trees. And then when you cast your eye a little bit further, you realize that's all you can see.
Yeah, a green desert. Good way to put it. And any other questions? This is a bit of a downer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No more questions from the audience, but
Oh.
one from me. What's next for Gone West?
Actually, so this forestry program that we're developing with Prince's Trust and Acorns to Oaks, this is what I'm personally really passionate about. But we've gotten an email today. Similar sort of program could be in the making with rehabilitated prisoners. So I think, we need as many trees as possible, planted in the right way and in the right places. But I think it's obvious right now how wrong so many systems on our planet are, and they're man-made systems. And to use whatever power we have to actually make a difference in people's lives and start the right conversations, and fight for equality, basically, for everybody. That's whatever energy we have, that's what needs to go towards.
That's it. I think for me, for the next 5 years, we'll see the growth of kind of the product development area of the business in terms of the number of clients that we have and the number then of different projects that we can support around the world. I'd like to think in the next 5 to 10 years, we can really kind of start putting some decent support, giving some decent support to really worthy projects all across the world, projects that are, at their very core focused around sustainability, but not just sustainability, but that also demonstrate equality in terms of gender equality, race equality, all of those things. So yeah, and just being able to support some really inspiring projects that will in turn create that circle of inspiration and continue to inspire us in everything that we do.
Yeah. Beautiful job, Wendy. I have to say, you absolutely smashed it today.
Amazing, guys. Well done. I'll do one quick check if there's any more questions, but I think otherwise we can finish there.
That either means we did our job very well or no one really cares.
You've got James is actually interacting with people on the chat, so I think they're all speaking to him there.
Nice. All right, thanks for having our back, Jimbo.
Yeah.
Well, I'll probably talk with you guys soon. But it was a pleasure to see you.
Excellent. Thank you so much again, Namisha.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ciao, guys. Have a good night.